Mr. President.
Mr. Hendricks and Ms. Moller are on the committee?
Yes.
Right, sir.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's call the Budget and Finance Committee to order, and we have present Mr. Hendricks and Ms. Mota, who are in the committee, and also all the council members are here, able to participate. So, we have a bill, and we have the Act 147 that we will be discussing in this. So, let's start with, and then we have the, obviously, the reports, the monthly reports, and the quarterly capital reports as well. So, let's talk about Bill 52, Mr. Hunt.
Bill 52, amends Article 307, solicitors and canvassers of the codified ordinance of the city of Allentown by changing the license fee to an application fee, raising the fee from $25 to $50 to recoup the cost to process the application, changing the time from going door to door from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and separating solicitors from canvassers.
All right, thank you. And my understanding is Assistant Chief Girl Scouts would like to speak about it.
Yes, this all came about when the police department and the Department of Finance sat down to discuss the process in processing the licenses for canvassers and solicitors, trying to streamline things a little bit. And when we took a look at the ordinance, it was last updated in 1987. And I will tell you, as a West End captain for a couple of years, one of the major complaints that I got from the residents out on the West End was the solicitors going door to door, 8, 9 o'clock at night, knocking on the doors. Especially of the older residents out there, they felt unsafe, uncomfortable, and unfortunately the way the current ordinance reads that is legal until 9 o'clock at night. But again, like I said, that was a lot of the complaints I was getting. So we took a look at, number one, the license fee. We were having issues with people coming in, applying for the permits or the license. They have to get fingerprinted. The Department of Finance processes them, then they send them to the police department, to our identification unit to be fingerprinted, to make sure that we're not giving a license to somebody that has burglary convictions to go door to door, and you know, that may possibly soliciting other illegal business. So they have to go through a fingerprint and background check. Believe it or not, we were having people that were lying on the application, stating that they didn't have a criminal offense, and then when they were fingerprinted and we went through the whole process, it came back that they were not approved for the license because of their criminal history. Then we're losing out on that license fee. So we changed it to, we talked about changing it to an application fee that has to be paid up front. And that way, when the person comes in, they pay for the application fee. If they still falsify the information on the application, well, then we still, you know, get the money for the time and effort we put into processing that application. So we discussed some of these changes. The solicitor's office reviewed the current ordinance and decided, based on some current case law, that it was best to separate the solicitors from the canvassers in our ordinance. I can't really speak to all those reasons as to why, other than some case law. But again, the other thing that we changed was the raising the fee. What it was prior was, if you had a group of people coming, say from an electric company, to solicit in the city, and they brought 12 people with them, the first person that registered or got their license paid $50. Each individual person after that was only charged $25. The finance department looked into what we were charging, and a lot of municipalities are charging much more for this than what we are. So just raising it from $25 to $50 across the board for everybody, I think is reasonable. It's certainly not out of line with what other municipalities are doing. It's actually, I think, a little less, but it covers our costs in about processing these applications.
Okay. And just a quick question, that doesn't include, the signs, when people put signs on the, and I'm talking about primarily those people who are running for political positions, and they put signs on the yard, and on the place, that doesn't include that, right?
No, this is for people going door to door.
Just door to door.
The solicitors are, if you're soliciting some type of business, you're trying to sell something, and that's why it was separated in this ordinance versus someone canvassing for political or religious reasons. They
Okay.
don't need the permit.
So okay, so that won't fall into that?
No, no.
Okay, so that's asking. Well, I was asked by Mr. Hendricks, he didn't make sure yes, so, anything else that you'd like to add?
Now, and the other changes in the ordinance were just like verbiage changes, changing the name of the department to Department of Finance, changing to the chief of police making the decisions of the chief of police or his or her designee, just minor changes like that. The what's before you there is the major changes to the ordinance.
Yeah. Okay. Any comment from my colleagues? Cynthia, and sorry, Ms. Moulton, Mr. Hendricks?
Thank you, Mr. Greedy. I would just like to comment that I think that's a very wise move to change the hours to 7 o'clock at night. And who knows better than you, as you said, you've been out there working the West End, as I know you have for years, and I think it makes very good sense to do that. This time of night, I know I don't want somebody knocking at my door trying to sell something.
Exactly.
So it makes a lot of sense.
Especially in the winter time, when it's dark already at 7:30. Any comment?
How many licenses do you guys do a year?
A year?
Mhm.
I'm not really sure.
Do you have?
It's not a huge amount, it's not in the hundreds.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody else up here can answer that. Yeah, I'm sorry, not off the top of my
And
head.
another question, raising the fees, how much money are you guys planning to get from this?
I really don't know, because
Okay.
I can't foresee how many people in the future are gonna
No,
apply for
but
licenses.
I just thought that, you guys had, a number from previous years. I mean, I think that it is a good idea. I was just wondering how much revenue are we gonna have by raising the price, the fees?
Mr. Hartzell.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mota, our staff in Revenue and Audit, who usually sees such individuals and then work with Assistant Chief Struss in getting the licensure done properly, or the permitting done properly, would have that information. I'm sorry, I don't have it right at my fingertips. We'll get it for you.
Thank you, sir.
Any further comments from the dais? Any of my colleagues? If not, any comments from the board?
Good evening, Tom Hahn. You mentioned
No, sir,
about
Mr. Hahn, your address again? Just for the record.
2016 East Highland Street.
Thank you.
You mentioned about the hours, and because it gets darker on the east side quicker than on the west side because of the way the sun goes, I think daylight saving time should be put into that, not just a discussion, but should be put in there, and maybe the hours added or subtracted from a date and time so that the 7 o'clock is still dark. And that would cover it using the clock as the parameter for when they could do it. So it's gonna be dark at 7 o'clock, and if they come, they're within legal, it's only 2 hours away from 9. But if you make it from 9 to 3, I understand that they're not gonna catch the people at home, but I think that should be a stipulation in there. That daylight saving time makes the hours incompatible with the people being knocked on their door in the dark.
The only concern that I have is that you have to keep changing. I mean, people sometimes don't know when daylight saving time may be, and they may walk in there. It's better to just set it at one time, quite frankly, Mr. Hahn. Everybody knows 7 o'clock. Oh, doesn't matter if it's dark or not, you're out. You know what I mean? Everybody
No,
at the same time.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
I said, no, I don't know what you mean, because it's dark. It's dark for both reasons why it's there. Whether it's dark at 9 o'clock or dark at 7 o'clock, it's still dark under the same parameters that they want to change the time.
Yeah, well, it's darker in some places than others. I think you're correct about that. You know, it's just the way it is, but I don't think it's much of a difference from, you know, a couple of hours away. But, my colleagues, you want to chime in? Anything?
I think the key point here is the reasonableness of the hour. I think 7 o'clock is far more reasonable than 9 o'clock. And as you said, cut it off at 5, you're excluding someone from canvassing for anybody coming home from work. But I do believe 7 o'clock is a fair time, and it's reasonable, and that's, I think, what we have to look at.
I agree. Let's not make it complicated. 7 o'clock.
Anybody, thank you. Anybody else from the public? If not, any motion to move this anyway to full council?
I'll make a motion.
Make the motion, second, you second it?
I'll second the motion to move this with a favorable
Recommendation?
recommendation.
Okay, all right. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried. All right, let's move on to R-147. Request for submission of the 5-year financial plan. You know, I think I want to say it at the beginning, you know, we've been talking about this, especially, you know, the people in the public, and we here in the dais, about getting the five-year financial plan, and we are all under the understanding that it's being completed quite a while ago, and we haven't gotten it. So I took it upon myself to ask the administration, in this case the mayor, what, you know, where is the plan? If we, you know, being the chair of the finance committee, is there, we want to make sure that we get it. And then we all agree that we'll put it, you know, in the agenda for us to discuss. He said that he would, the mayor said that he would provide it to us on the day of the budget, which is right now formally requested, which has to be presented to council by November 1st. Okay, so you bring it to us on November 1st. We don't have anything right now to give anybody or to look at. I don't know if you want to say anything, Mr. Herschel, about it? I mean, except for what you already said, that it's done, it's completed. So we're basically waiting for it for November 1st. That's when he said that he was going to present it to us. November 1st is the day of the budget. What day is that of the month?
Tuesday.
That's Tuesday, so it should be okay.
Is a special meeting then?
We probably have to be a special meeting. It's up to you, Mr. President.
Well, he needs to present the budget November 1st. Okay, historically, he has not, okay? Unless, I could be wrong.
You're correct,
It's usually the first council meeting in November. We have time to talk about that.
Yeah, but he usually gives it to us. It has to be given to us by November 1st. And sometimes, because November 1st might fall on a holiday or not a holiday, I'm sorry, on a weekend, then it's presented to us on the next council meeting.
We'll discuss that as a group, and we'll come to some consensus, and we'll let the administration know when we want that presented to us.
Okay, good. Sounds good. That's right. Go ahead.
Councilman, what range is there for that when we have been told we will be given it on a given day?
Are you asking me or asking you?
I'm sorry, I forget.
We're the budget and finance.
Yes, I know, but
You want to ask?
my colleague having spoken about that responsibility.
What, you say, what range? What are you talking about, the 5-year financial plan or the presentation of this city budget?
Financial, 5-year plan. It is
What
proposed that we will.
what range?
My understanding is, we've been told it will be given to us on November 1st. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
From
Yes, that's it.
Okay. In the past, it hasn't, the city budget, proposed budget hasn't come to us necessarily on November 1st. So will we receive it on November 1st, even if the proposed budget comes later? Or will the budget come up with the five-year thing?
I don't want to speak for Mr. Greedy because he's the chair, but I will give my personal opinion.
Yes.
We've been asking, I think we're mixing apples and oranges. The 5-year financial plan we've been asking for a long time. We have heard from good sources in City Hall that 5-year financial plan has been in the hands of people, administration, in City Hall for maybe a year and a half. That's why we're doing this resolution. We're trying to get the 5-year financial plan to us so we can see it. I'm looking at the budget as a separate entity than the 5-year financial plan. The mayor has to present to council a budget for the 2017 year, November 1st. Now, my only thought right now is, do we want to have a special meeting November 1st? Or do we want to wait till November 2nd when we have a city council meeting? Do we bring people out November 1st and November 2nd? The financial plan is somewhere that has been on the back burner for a long time. And we're trying with Mr. Greed, I give Mr. Greed credit, a lot of credit. He's trying to push it to the front burner so we can see it because we haven't seen it. And that's my story right now.
Okay, is it permissible, Mr. Chairman, to have a discussion about the 5-year proposal?
Well, we will, yes, we will be able to do that.
Later or now?
Well, we can't do it now, we don't have anything to discuss. I mean,
Sure.
we can talk about it, but it will be without the actual information. I personally want to see what's in the 5-year plan. And in order to do that, we have to have it.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to step on this.
Yeah.
so do I,
Mhm.
but even with goodwill, it has never showed up. And I would like to ask Mr. Hartzell a few questions, if I may, about
Sure.
the financial plan.
Sure, you can, go right ahead.
Mr. Hartzell, I know that you have not been around for the life of the 5-year plans. Okay? Every year, there's supposed to be 2 out there. One, more than 5 years ago, was due, if I'm correct, and now the second one is due. Is that reasonable? Is that correct? Every year. Somebody said yes, somebody said no.
Now that there are 2, I think there's 21, but go right ahead, Mr. Harrison.
Well, I'm wondering, Dr. McGuire might be speaking about the 5-year capital improvements plan alongside a 5-year plan of projected revenues and expenditures.
That's it.
And I'm pretty sure both of those are supposed to be annual. I certainly know the 5-year capital plan is supposed to be annual. And that is forthcoming. We're putting that together at this point. I don't have the history on when the last time that the 5-year revenue expenditure plan was put out.
Okay. Is that 5-year plan funded or in any way related to state government asking us to do this?
The provision for said plan is provided in the city charter, and it's intended that that's where we're supposed to get this from. There have been some grants that have been provided us to help get this complete, and we're completely cognizant of that, but the actual requirement thereof is in the city charter.
Okay. Where do the grants come from?
The State Department of Community and Economic Development.
Have we ever given a report back to them for what we have done when they're getting a grant and 5 years later that we have shown use of for that money?
There was something I sent back there, but I don't know that it was specifically to the report.
I don't know that
Mr. McGuire.
there is a grant closeout. I don't know per se if they received the final. I think that's something that we present, and have for review, you know.
We did send, in fact, she gave me the documentation on it. We have indicated that we've completed the project or whatever was necessary for the grant closeout, but we have not, as part of that, released a report.
Did we have, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, received such a grant and plan?
That predates me for sure, I don't know.
That's okay, I don't want to put you back in the early Ice Age.
There were other, there was the, EIP, you know, there was an early intervention plan a couple of years ago. I don't remember exactly what year, but there have been, since I've been here, 2008, there has been another plan.
And it was the EIP that was actually the state money on this one,
Yes,
so that
yes.
it was that particular, very strangely named, but nonetheless, that was
Yeah.
the particular grant that was involved in this one.
All right.
We have a list of the grants, I just emailed the grants.
Okay.
All right, well, maybe at a later time would be better, but I had this idea from reading the newspaper and otherwise, but before I became immersed in the living force of city government, that there had been a grant that went through a 5-year plan, but never was given to the council or to the public. Does any of that sound familiar to either of you?
Not to me.
I'd have to look back at what was, you know, done years before
All right.
and get back to you. I, you know,
Yeah, if you could, I'd appreciate hearing more about the history and length of our 5-year plans. Unlike the old Soviet Union, there's always a 5-year plan going on, but here I thought we had some grants and so on. But I could be mistaken, and I will be quiet now.
Thank you, Dr. McGuire. That's good. Thank you. You know, we kind of neglected to read the resolution, and it's the resolution Act 47. Act 147 is sponsored by Mr. Hendricks, Dr. McGuire, Mr. McLean, and myself, Mr. Grady. And will you read that resolution, Mr. Hanlon? You know
The whole thing?
what?
The whole thing? Yeah, the resolution just, do you want me to read the whole thing?
How big?
It's the whole page.
I'll read it.
Okay.
You read fast.
Whereas the home rule charter of the city of Allentown states, the mayor shall have the following powers and duties, among others, prepare and submit to city council on an annual basis a 5-year financial plan and budget. Whereas the plan has not been made available to council or the public, the last document, a draft discussion document, was circulated in 2005, whereas the city has received state fund or grants to prepare a 5-year plan, one grant in the amount of $39,000, which ended in August of 2015, another in the amount of $67,800, which ended in 2012. Whereas the city funds were also used to create a 5-year plan as required by the charter, and whereas the grant application projected schedules and key milestones and dates that have long since expired. Where city council has been told for the last few years the release of such a plan is just around the corner. Now therefore be it resolved that city council finds that the concealment of the plan is in direct violation of the charter, contrary to the intent of state funding, which is directed to be used for purposes relative to public decision-making. This serves to the operation, efficiency, and transparency of city government. Be it resolved that should the 5-year plan not be accounted for and presented to council and the public by October 1st, city council will investigate the circumstances surrounding the 5-year plan, specifically the decision and stalling tactics used to prevent the plan from being made public, and use all its authority under the charter to make the record clear.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Okay, so you go right ahead, Mr. McLean.
Yeah, I just have a question. I believe I heard you say that the plan is done?
Yes.
Okay, and then this isn't to put Mr. Hartzell on the hot seat.
No.
This is a rhetorical question among my colleagues here, then why do we have to wait till November 1st to get it with the budget?
Well, I asked for it to be today, and he requested that he would present it with a budget at the time of the budget. I am not sure. My understanding is that there is some correlation with the budget. I'm not sure what it is, I rather, I mean, I obviously wanted the president for it today. He said he wants to do it.
So we'll need to digest the budget and the 5-year plan before we vote on the budget.
I think we should do,
December.
I think we should probably do the 5-year plan first. And, you know, and that's why I'm kind of advocating for a meeting before the budget. So we'll be able to digest, like you said, and find out what's in there, what is expected. I don't think it will look too right. I don't foresee it to be too promising in regards to the finances of the city. But you know, I think it would be better for us to understand where we're going, where we are, where is our finances, before we delve into the actual budget.
No, I completely understand and agree. I was just thinking if we had it now,
Oh, yes.
that would give us close to a month to look at it, so then we have to start looking at the budget.
We can only ask,
Yeah.
we can ask, we
It's not
make a
just reasonable,
resolution.
silly me.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Greedy. I look at the 5-year financial plan and the budget as two separate entities.
You're right.
The 2017 budget is for the 2017 year.
Right.
The 5-year financial plan, I'm pretty good at math, is for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And since this has been kind of delayed, or whatever you want to say, what years are we looking at for the 5-year financial plan? Give me the years. Go ahead, sir.
As the mayor has indicated, that a primary reason for bringing it out with the budget is to make the 2017 budget year, the baseline year of the projections. 2017 through 2021 would be appropriately that 5 years. So just as we're almost done with 2016, so 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
But when the 5-year financial plan was initiated, it wasn't initiated 2017 to 2021, was it?
It was not,
Was not?
but all I'm saying is that the mayor has indicated he wants to use 2017 as the baseline, so it would logically make sense that we would have to do through 21.
And just one other question, and I know the answer, but the 5-year financial plan and the CAFR, tell me the distinct differences. I know what they are, but I want to hear it from Mr. Hudson.
The 5-year plan is obviously prospective based upon some very well thought out projections and estimations of where we're going to go on revenues and expenditures. The comprehensive annual financial report that you refer to is a yearly kind of summary of audited by independent auditors of what has happened in the fiscal year just completed.
I know it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Greedy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any more comments from the dais in regards to the 5-year financial plan? Dr. McGuire, go right ahead, sir.
I'd like to address this to Mr. Hartzell. Is there a 5-year plan to be prepared every year? Yes. Is that the I understand? Yes. Is that correct?
That is my understanding as to what is in the charter, yes.
So when we talk about a 5-year plan, are we talking one that is this year and then 5 years out, or every year and each year it's presented is for 5? It's a kind of a rolling thing. Could you enlighten me on that? I don't know.
Yes, sir. I would interpret it as the first year of it, which the mayor has indicated he wants to use his 2017 budget as the baseline would be year 1. And that's why I mentioned 2021, because that would be year 5. If there is to be an annual plan, if this is to be done annually, much like the capital improvement plan that we do now, you would just simply shift the bracket 1 year further. 2017 to 21 for this year, 2018 to 22 for the following year, and so on.
From this, can I deduce that somewhere in city records, there are 10 or 12 plans that never were brought forward, but are somewhere sitting around that never were gone? Otherwise, I hate to say it, if I'm wrong, I prefer to be wrong, but it suggests to me the mayor has been derelict in his explicit responsibility under the charter to have a plan every 5 years. That keeps being updated, et cetera. None of which for the last, I'll make up the number, 8 years has ever shown up here, so far as I know. You may not have the insight or the total historical knowledge to respond to that. But I think this gets to the heart of the somewhat opaque visibility of financial data under the last maybe at least 6 years of this current administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McGuire. Anybody else from the dais? Anybody from the public? Mr. Hirschman.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thank you, Mr. Reed. As a member of City Council in the 70s, you know,
will you say your name and address, please? Name and address, please.
I thought you did.
Okay. Go ahead.
As a member of City Council in the 1970s, you know we got an annual report every year updated.
1970s? I
No,
wasn't
not
even in
me,
this country
I'm
yet.
sorry, 2000, we got a report every year. At budget time, the mayor updated annually. This mayor, when he became mayor, hasn't done it once, Dr. McGuire. He just thumbed his nose at he doesn't, if you have a program budget, he doesn't provide a program budget. If the council just gave you a budget, there's no program in it. He fails. That's what he wants to do, and nobody brings him to task. I've been requesting this 5-year plan for years, because I know it's supposed to be done annually, because I served with Julio, and we did get it annually. The mayor blasts Roy Applebach all the time, but Roy Applebach always provided an annual report. But this mayor hasn't. So what I'm saying is, City Council should have an investigation if the mayor violates the right to know law. Because I've been getting letters that the 5-year plan isn't ready. The president of City Council has told you, it's been ready for a year and a half. So they've been lying. They're not telling you the truth. The thing has been ready, but I get a right to know request answered. It's not ready. Get it to me when it's ready. I think it's not the way to operate government. You have to be fair to the citizens of Arlington on their right to know. Did the mayor violate the state law? Is there any penalties by him violating state law? And I ask City Council to investigate this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hirschman. Anybody else from the public, please? Mr. Hunziker, name and address, please.
Very good. Glenn Hunter, 844 South 11th Street, Allentown, Pennsylvania. Okay. We've been digging through some papers today because I figured maybe this would come up for, I have a paper here, it says multi-year professional plan services dated 12/22/14. And as I go across the sheets, which I'll submit to you, this sheet of paper, and then it says it was canceled. Now, according to this invoice amount, it was $26,000 that the city paid for this report. This was in 14, multi-year plan. I assume it's a 5-year plan. And we go down further. In 2005, financial advisory services canceled. Another one was canceled. I mean, you see the pattern here. There's something wrong. There's really something wrong. It started way back. He didn't just dream of this stuff last week. He's not performing to his duties. You're talking financial advisory service, another $28,000. Another multi-year plan back in 2005, $14,000. I'm going to submit to you this paper. It's the only one I have, but you probably have it somewhere in your archives. Do I submit it to you or to him?
Yeah, give it to Mr. Green. Thank you, sir.
It's interesting. Council has to step up to the plate here and enforce these charters, the provisions in the charter to make this public. Even for yourself, you have to know. He's shortchanging everybody. And he's blatantly doing this. It's like, I can't have this till November the 1st. It's ridiculous. Now, I have another here, another piece of paper. It's called the 5-year financial management plan, a draft. This was 2010, number 37. You can dig that up. That's only a few years back. One of the things that's interesting to me, if I get down here to section 5, information of the functions to be reviewed. It says here, city accounts from 2001 forward are maintained in a comprehensive general ledger system, which I'm sure Ms. Debbie Bowman knows about this, which uses an SQL system. The in-house expertise is available to extract data as required. I think council has to extract this data, or whatever data we think we can come up with, and they should provide it. It's their obligation to do this. And your obligation and ours to make sure it's done. That's all I want to say. I'll give you this paper.
We stay with Mr. Hunsick and Mr. House wants to comment. Go ahead, Mr. Hunsick.
Thank you, Councilman Greedy. Sometime earlier in the spring, we had received a request, on right-to-know request about expenditures to public financial management, which I think may be what he is looking at, but we will verify that. If what he was looking at was a vendor list of things that happened, the cancellations were not that we didn't pay them, they were just actually that the checks were cashed, so that all of those expenses actually were made. We will look into that, just so we can get some clarity on that, but that is what we'll make sure that we get that clear for you.
You have the paperwork there. I'm not sure what that means, other than it says it's the status, it says canceled. Does that mean the report was canceled? It doesn't mean that the check wasn't paid. I'm sure of that. I mean, and we can verify that from the.
If I see the document, I can tell you that.
The only thing, this is a draft.
No, that one, not that page.
No, this one.
Yeah, give that.
Yes, this is a vendor, and when it's saying canceled, it's saying this, the check, the status canceled. Well, our system, when something's cleared, the bank, it uploads and it says it's canceled, so that means that cleared.
That's
what that means, it's not that.
That's what that means.
That's right, the
Cancel
status means
that
canceled, that the check cleared, the
check
process, right.
doesn't say that it was reconciled or anything, it just says, maybe that'd be a better word than canceled. It's
I
misleading.
don't like the software, but yes,
Well,
that's what.
I mean, we have software people that could probably change the wording and that, but anyway.
That's what that means. So
Okay,
it isn't
there-
that it was canceled, but that it was actually paid.
But the other thing in here, you paid a lot of money and we don't see the reports. Or maybe somebody else did, I don't know. I'm sure the man on the fifth floor seen it.
Mr. Hunsick,
Okay.
what we'd like to do, right, is get the information directly from the mayor, ask him questions, and, you know, I appreciate Mr. Harrison trying to answer, things for the mayor, but I think we'd rather hear directly from the mayor on this, because, I mean, he's new, and we kind of put him on the spot here with information or questions that he may not know.
In all due respect, I think, I mean, these are the professionals in this area. And what is he going to do? He's gonna come down to these people anyway. I think we should make a request to financial department to follow up whatever we ask them for, what you ever ask them for. It's your responsibility, you're the financial.
Well, in regards to the 5-year plan, we have requested it to the mayor, he hasn't provided. Now, he did send an email to all council members, and, that email was, on the 19th, explaining the reason why he wants to wait for the 5-year plan to be presented at the time of the budget. So.
We can all theorize why he wants to delay it. I mean, you're gonna have so much coming in the month of November, you won't know what to read next. I mean, and it's not your fault, but that's just the way it is. I think he's had this plan probably since, we don't know what the date is, but they can provide a date. I'm sure they could probably tell us when the 5-year plan was implemented in this year. And we don't even know how many years you should go back. You should actually go back to 5 years, go back 5 years. And every one of these should be presented at the same time.
Yeah, well,
So you can really make a judgment on what's going on.
And we will do that. We will do that. We're gonna, I mean, what I wanna make sure that we provide, especially in regards to finances, is to be as transparent as possible. However, we can only have the information that is provided to us. And we requested it, as I said, we requested it already several times. I talked to him, he sent us an email, he sent everybody in council an email on the 19th, okay? And that email explains that he will be presenting it on November 1st, or November, with the budget actually, is what he's saying.
Or shortly thereafter.
But surely thereafter. I'm gonna request that he present it prior to the budget, if that's okay with you, Mr. President. We just have to make sure that we have a meeting scheduled in that time.
Absolutely, fully agree.
All right, good.
Sooner the better.
Can we add the other years into that too, or can we only?
We're talking about, quite frankly, Mr. Hunsaker, he's talking about almost 10 years of budget data.
No, we can go back 5 years. 10 years, we don't want to go back that far.
And that's part of the, obviously, part of the COFR's information as well, okay? So, why don't we leave it up to here, because we don't have the information that you're asking us to give you, and that's why I kind of, that's why I said it's better to have the mayor here making the presentation as opposed to putting Mr. Hart on the spot for information that he should be answering.
He's used to being on the spot every time we come up here, but he's handling it pretty well.
I'm sure he is. He's very knowledgeable. Thank you very much, Mr. Hunsaker. Anybody else from the public? Mrs. Hahn, sorry.
This is too loud. Helen Hahn, 2016 East Highland Street. You know what, I come up here with such a hollow feeling inside, because we come meeting after meeting, ask questions, the answers aren't there. And I just came up to thank Dr. McGuire for asking intelligent questions that can actually get something resolved. It's very disappointing that the same things are asked, and then the book's upstairs, or that's over here. I thought a computer setup would, you type something in, you would get the answer. I'm dreaming about that, I'm sure. And I know my problem of feeling hollow isn't your problem, but it does that to me, to come here and listen to the same people asking for information, or asking, when did this happen? And it's, okay, now I'll get back to you, but guess what? When are you getting back? No one does that. And it's very disheartening.
Well, I'm sorry to call you off, Ms. Hahn, but we do provide information that we have at hand.
That you have at hand, but the problem is it's not at hand. That's actually the problem.
We all feel the same way
Okay,
you feel.
well then, when that comes around, that's when we dig in and we go get it. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Hahn, did you come here?
Same address, different subject. There was a short discussion of about a minute and a half asking the controller if he could provide information as soon as possible so that the public can compare the plan for the last 5 years up to 17 and compare it to this year and look at the money, look at if there was bonds taken out for the 5-year plan for the things that are on there, any grants or anything that's on there, so you can compare it to see what was done, what money they had to give back in case the grant wasn't accomplished, and what money was spent, how far the project is going, and was it ever completed. In order to do that, we need the 5 years. So when you start the 5 years, it doesn't matter that the mayor now is admitting that he has completed everything up to 2017 and it's complete, and now he's moving forward for the next 5 years. But in order to compare that it is complete and there's no extra money flying around in any category or any position, this needs to be done. Now, how do we get that information prior to the budget so you know, so the citizens know, as well as the council people, that everything has been completed, there's nothing left over, and we can move forward with a new 5-year plan? How do we get that information?
Well, I think once we get that 5-year plan, we'll be able to answer those questions. But unfortunately, we don't have it, as you know.
No, the 5-year plan is not gonna show what we need to compare to everyone, the council and the public, of what was completed, what with the money that was spent, what projects have been
Are you talking
eliminated.
about the capital plans, or are you talking about different things?
I'm talking about 5-year plans. Plans that have led the city in a direction for 5 years, where money was set aside, money was spent, bonds were purchased to complete those things. We need that comprehensive information to make an analysis on what was completed, what was done, if there was anything that was re-budgeted or rebonded or extra money sent out, so those plans could be accomplished, whether it was a dog park, whether it was a pool.
I got you, Mr. Hunt, and I think Mr. Hudson has some assistance on that.
Yes, and you're, from what I'm hearing, you're talking about what we've been doing with capital projects where we have been moving money around maybe after a certain project is finished. That's been part of the initiative that I have asked Debbie and Barb and our team to start looking at, to be going into all of that data. It took quite a while for us, actually, in what we now show in the capital plans. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more when we present the quarterly capital report shortly, to make sure that we were aligning the current projects with the proper bond funds and making sure that was apples to apples. I am still not convinced this moment that some of the older data is entirely accurate, and so we're going through every one of that set of data all the way back to 2002, where we have data that we can at least track it, probably 2005 in most cases, but we're gonna do as best a job as we can of making sure we have an accurate record of what was assigned to what, and it will be laid out very clearly. Unfortunately, when closing 37 projects at once and trying to make those allocations accurate, it takes a while, and I make no apology for that, but we're working at it. And that's different, of course, from the 5-year operating plan.
Is it feasible to move forward without the information that he's talking about? How can you make a decision when you don't have the information? You're gonna move forward in a month to all this stuff, and I don't think it's gonna be ready in time based on what he has to do on a daily basis. How do you go through the November without this information to know that the slate is clear? How does that happen?
Well, quickly, we're supposed to have a meeting at 6 o'clock, okay? So we're gonna have to go back to 6, and then we have another committee meeting at 6:30. So we're kind of very late right now. So I'm gonna try to make it quick, and then I don't know if anybody else has any questions or comments. But what we're gonna do basically is try to get as much information from, and every council member has the opportunity to discuss their particular department and ask for the information at that time. And that's how they will be able to make their decision, particularly in any particular department. For example, I'll be asking information to the finance director and that information that you're talking about. And everybody else, you chair the public safety committee, so you'll be doing that. And everybody else subsequently will be doing the same thing. And that's what we usually prepare to make that right decision.
How do I know that you'll ask the questions?
Oh, you probably will not know that.
No, wait. How will I know that you will ask the questions that I want to know as the citizens if you don't meet with us and get all the questions that you have? In other words, in the past, we had issues, and I'm trying to erase it and start a new slate, but if you don't ask the questions, and the example I'm gonna give is a yellow paper was given out to council to an ex-council member by the name of Joe Davis, and he sent it to PFM to get the answers and couldn't ask the questions himself of the administration. I don't want that ever to happen again, that we come here with information and you don't ask the exact question and then it comes back unanswered and we're in the same place.
I got you. I got you. That's
So
what you said.
you're
You
saying
said
you'll meet
everybody
with
is-
us and get all our questions,
Mr.
so
Hahn.
that when you're at a meeting?
Mr. Hahn.
What happened now?
Mr. Hahn, look, you're really over your time, I've given you a lot of opportunity to speak, when we have all the meetings. Now-
You took half of my time by not giving the correct answer. Stop the clock, listen, look at him pissing contest with the clock. Stop the clock every
Hold
time
on.
you answer.
Please, Mr. Hahn, please, come on.
I understand, but my point is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hahn. Thank you, I mean, I
You
did a long
can't,
time.
don't close your ears because you won't ask the questions we need the answers for when you're the chair of that meeting. You're only gonna
Send me
ask.
the questions and I'll ask them. Please send them.
Will you meet with us so we can do that? Will you meet with us so we can give you our
Sure.
questions?
When do you want to meet?
No, no, Mr.
you know.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn. Appreciate it. Okay.
And let me just,
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Hazel, will you be able to get those calculations that Mr. Hahn was talking about prior to the budget meetings?
Councilman Greedy, I have actually had opportunities to speak with Mr. Hahn and Mr. Hunsicker, and I have no problem taking questions, and trying to find out information. I would never promise, however, until I knew factually what the answer was, that there was gonna be an answer coming back. I'm not hiding anything with what we're doing. When we talked about having $2 million freed up from closed projects, the reason we haven't been distributing that anyplace else is because we're looking through all of the other accounting so that we can be sure, did we get the other stuff right? Do we really have that to share? And I never had a problem answering or responding to the questions, but the timing of it may not be immediate while we're still trying to figure this out.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds good to me, and we're just gonna have to keep working on it. And hopefully satisfy all your questions, Mr. Hahn. I know you're not gonna be ever satisfied, but we try, okay? All right, any other comments on this? So what do you wanna do with how do you wanna handle the resolution? Anybody wanna make a motion on any way or another?
To submit it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that it be submitted with favorable recommendation.
I second.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we still have, unfortunately, we still have the Budget and Finance monthly report and the quarterly capital report for 2016, and everybody in council has it. I can tell you that a couple of things. We got the MMO payment for the year. We also got, we're doing pretty good in the ERT and the real estate taxes coming in. We're maybe a little behind on that, right? On the real estate taxes, Mr. Hansel?
Briefly speaking, Councilman Greedy and members, much of what we were seeing for trends in July had pretty much held true in August, in which we are still above estimates on our resident earned income tax and on the D-transfer tax, still behind what was projected for real estate tax and business privilege tax. We did get some good news, which is not shown up in the report yet because it will show up in the September report, that the state aid for pension under Act 205, which we had estimated around $3.9 million, is actually for this year going to come in a little over $4.3 million into the general fund. We were trying to make a conservative estimate on it. We ended up on the good side of that one. I think in the aggregate, those overall impacts are going to pretty well wash out amongst each other. The positives and the negatives are going to be about equal by the time we get to the end of the year. But really, August was a continuation of what we were seeing in July on revenues and on expenditures.
Thank you. We also have gotten about half of the LCA payments for $500,000 that we had.
Yes, sir. The second half of the $500,000 annual royalty payment for this year has been received. That will show up. That may not even show up until the October statement because I think it just came in the door this week, so it'll be in the October financial report, but it has arrived. So we have received our $500,000 for the year.
And thank you, Mr. Hansel. One quick, you can briefly tell us a little bit, there's been some questions, and there was an article in the paper about the casino revenue. Can you just talk a little bit about the casino revenue, how's that going to affect our finances?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Councilman Greedy. City of Allentown statutorily has 3 different streams of revenue combining between slot machines and table games, that there are distributions of revenue that are to be provided to the city, and without saying so specifically, it's tied to the Sands Casino. And right now, we have been receiving on an annual basis about $3.9 million from that. When the Mount Airy case originally came up before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the big issue on that was the $10 million fee, and that they deemed it themselves to be unfair that they should have to pay the same basic fee that a much larger casino would have to do. That portion of the 3.9 appears to the city in a truing up at the beginning of the following calendar year. It comes up to about $800,000. My understanding from staff, though, is that the statute in its entirety has been actually, whatever the proper term was, repealed may not be the right word, but rendered ineffective, which would deal with the entirety of the money, but that the court is waiting for the state legislature over this 120-day period to come up with a replacement mechanism for that. And the whole issue originally was tied to that, whether you do 2% or a $10 million fee, and that you take $10 million from particular casinos if they don't, 2% of the revenue doesn't get there. My personal thought is they're going to come up with something to try to make this hold harmless, but by rendering the entire statute invalid, it does make it a much larger deal than what we had anticipated going into it.
Thank you. And just for the sake of making sure that we know where we are in regards to budget, you said that the expenditure may be about 1% above or below the budget amount?
We continue to see wages for the year right around 1% above last year's budget. I will point out that we now have seen the retroactive ruling from the arbiter on for the police salaries for the year that we're currently in, along with the 2 years to follow. We had not put that in the budget specifically at the end of 2015 because we were really not sure where practically it was going to end up, but we had been expecting that sometime late in 2016 we would have to deal with that issue. We will be bringing something forward to you during the course of October to address that.
Good, thank you. In regards to the funds, such as risk fund summary, and some of the other funds, I didn't see much significance to mention on them. I just want to say to council that in the past we're looking very closely at the golf fund, and that continues to be on the black. I think it's about $153,000 ahead. So we are doing pretty good on that. I think it was a good decision to keep it in-house. Let's see. Anything else that you want to add in regards to the monthly financial report?
No, sir.
Thank you. Just briefly, we also got a copy of the capital funds and the expenditures. I think there's one significant part that you may want to highlight is the expenditures of, it was page 13 and up. The capital projects and the process of being closed, reconciled, and balance transferred. And I don't know if you or Debbie, any of you want to talk a little bit about that.
I will indeed speak to that, and I have again to Barb and to Debbie and the accounting team who are working through this rigorously, along with the departments that are closing these out. They're working very hard to make sure we get all the data right and figure out exactly what we will have to redistribute to other capital projects going forward. Every one of the reports that comes before you has to be signed off and looked at by me before we do it. And it turned out in this case that I thought I had sent this one to you a month earlier and I hadn't. So I take entirely the blame in this case because I was busy and I thought I had sent a report that I hadn't. That's why you're seeing the second quarter report now. You will see the third quarter report at the next monthly meeting, so we get that one on time. As Mr. Greedy pointed out, members, the 37 or so closed projects at the back are now separated from the capital plan as it is, only the open projects are shown on the first 12 pages, and you can see now separated on the last 4 pages of the document, all the projects that are in the process of being closed and having their accounts closed out and properly reconciled.
Great, thank you. Any further comment from the dais? Anybody in the dais? Any comment from the public on this? Mr. Hirschman, please.
Just take 1 minute, Julia, I know you're running late.
Oh, we are very late, unfortunately.
Lou Hirschman, co-filer of Gilmer Street. I sent out to City Council this week in reference to the wage tax that you're discussing. My response from State Representative Schreier in reference to charging me 1.65 and the non-residents 1.28. I don't want to read what Mr. Schreier says. I'm asking you guys to talk to your solicitor to find out if what you're charging me 1.65 and the non-residents 1.28 is legal. I guess you got a copy of it, Julio, and I'd really appreciate it if you get a solicitor's opinion on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Roger, have fun whenever you're out of the station.
Thanks. All right.
Okay.
Ms. Hunziker.
Glenn Hunziker, 844 South 11th Street. I'm looking at your 9 of 13 again, and in relationship to the capital projects, can you explain a little bit more so I understand this a little bit better? 2.8 million were in the red, and basically that number is pertaining to these capital projects. Is that what
We're talking about 9 of 16, right?
9 of...
No, actually, he's back in the monthly report.
Oh, yeah.
On
9 of 13.
13, he's looking at the cash balances by fund.
Right. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Go ahead, Mr. Hirschman.
August, 2.8 million roughly.
And it's actually a lot closer to zero on it because we were able to make accounting entries in August of reimbursements that we received to be able to get that back closer to zero. My understanding of that account remains that they're still dealing with reimbursements that we get back from other entities upon the completion of certain projects. That understanding we're also getting clarified as we're going through reconciling all of the closed projects. So but that is essentially why I understand that to be a negative balance right now.
Good question, Mr. Hunziker. Anything else?
Yes.
Answer.
Of the capital fund plan, how much of this plan is going to be financed through bonds? Do you know offhand?
Go ahead,
Thank you, Councilman Grady. As you can look at in the capital report, and this is why I'm really very happy with our team for having put this together in the spring, the projects are now set aside or now aligned with particular debt issues. So you can see, such as on page 6, everything that's under the 2015 debt issuance. You go over to page 8, you have the 2012 debt issuance. That was a very big accomplishment our team was able to make clear this spring, to tie to specific projects to specific debt issuances. So if it's on one of those, then there is some type of debt issuance or loan that is tied to it.
Do you have a number of the total amount of bonds covering these projects? Do you have 100 million? We took a guess. What do we talk?
As we have closed many projects, and that several of these are also dealing with federal reimbursements that we would get, particularly on the transportation projects, I don't know if, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question accurately, because certainly we've been doing tens of millions of dollars of projects when you do street construction and many other things, but we are certainly showing here what balances still exist in those particular funds and what projects are connected to them.
It's important to link the bonds, the debt on bonds to this. This capital fund over the years has been really a quagmire of understanding. Even they can't understand it. That's where we lost the 1.7, not we, somehow, previous administrations or our present one, not him, lost the 1.7 million. I mean, that's not $20, but it's in here. It was supposed to be in here, but it's gone. I mean, and we just borrowed 32 million in January of 15. And that has to be, and I think they were some general obligation bonds. And they have to be designated where they go. I think it behooves us to keep tracking where these go. We have to set up some procedures, because if you guys can, I mean, I shouldn't say you guys, I'm sorry, council people, have to track more what the administration's doing. And if you go back to Reagan, we have to trust but verify. We have to trust but verify. That's the only way about it. I have one more question, and it goes back to the solid waste fund. I mean, every year we get so much money from the state back to the solid waste fund. And this year, I think it was $287,000. How do we know it goes back to that proprietary fund? How do we know? Because when it comes into the city, my understanding, it probably goes into the general fund, which I think we designated the sausage factory lately, but how do we know that goes back? Where do we show that in the paperwork?
Mr. Hudson, too.
I'm going to defer to Ms. Bowman on this one, but once the state aid came in, I actually approved a distribution of it either today or yesterday that was assigning those dollars to the specific funds that, from which those particular dollars were derived and should go back to. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was good. When we got the state aid in, that is put into each of the funds, if that's what you're referring to. Any money that comes in that is for strictly solid waste goes there. As our annual audits always show, if it was meant for solid waste, it's in that fund.
What piece of paper can we get? Not that we don't trust you, but we'd like to see it. I mean, where can we see that?
What are you talking about exactly?
The 287 that just came in the last month or so from the Pennsylvania solid waste, you get grant money back?
I can get, yeah, I don't have that here. You mean that we received in?
I mean, how do we track that actually
There's
goes back?
288 that's in here in February. It's on the solid waste sheet.
I mean,
You'll
you
see
know it, but I don't.
There's February and June.
I mean, how can you show somebody, the public and council, how does that really get back? I mean, it's a proprietary fund. So basically, and I'm bringing this up because just 8 months ago, the administration wanted to raise our garbage fees by $15. I mean, we have to keep track of what's going in there. I mean.
And that's reflected on the monthly report.
All right, okay. This time it's like been off for a while, so, yeah, so if you please, probably we can talk offline and get more information.
Maybe I recommend we schedule a little bit longer meeting for your financial.
We would do that next time, yeah. We would do that next time. Half an hour was not
enough
time. You're right, especially when we had to have to table it. So, thank you. Great, any more comments from the dais? All right, I'd like to call this meeting adjourned.
It was an early conversation, it was a little louder than most.
Thank you, Mr. Greedy. This time we're going to move right into the approval of contracts, professional services meeting. We have 2 contracts tonight. Mr. Hartzell, Mr. Roll is not here
I
tonight?
regret she's had a very sudden family matter that popped up over the last couple of days that she's taking care to, so I unfortunately have to deal with me tonight.
No, that takes priority, and Mr. Hartzell, always good to see you. Mr. Hanlon, R-160, please read that for the public record.
R-160 is an authorization for a contract with Commonwealth Equipment Corporation in the estimated amount of $89,000 for roadway equipment, affordable jaw plan. And you can read there about what that jaw plan does. And there's 2 additional.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hartzell, explanation from the administration?
Certainly, and during a more technical question, I believe Mr. Shada is here.
Mr. Shada is here. Mr.
Okay,
Shada.
I'm going to have to come up to the table just in case there's anything on the technical side, but this is something that is rented on a seasonal basis so that we can reuse certain of the paving materials and other hard materials that we do, so we don't have to go out and buy more of it and make reuse of what we're doing. Oh, I get Mr. Messenger. I get that, okay. As a result of this, we regularly lease this out. Because it's going to be, the lease is going to happen across calendar years, we're anticipating a certain amount of it being spent out of 2016 and a certain amount to be spent out of 2017. All the usual criteria that comes with it, but the overall thing that we try to do here is to make use of what's still usable material, which is what this will help us do.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mitchell, do you want to add anything else?
There's a few reasons why we do this, and it is every other year. Last time 2014, and we did it in 2012 also. It's recycling the asphalt and the concrete that we actually dig out of the roadways. So basically, instead of going out to buy stone anywhere from $10 to $16 a ton, we can actually take the materials that we use, recycle it through this machine, and at a cost of about $4 to $5 a ton, we have usable stone. So it's a cost savings. It's also the right thing to do instead of just throwing the material in the dump. So it's recycling it. And also, as we all know, dump sites fill up, and the site that we're currently using is getting to that point. So the more we reuse what's in there, the longer we're going to have a cheaper way of getting rid of our materials.
Thank you, sir. Where is Commonwealth Equipment Corporation? Where are you located?
In Ashley, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I'm not sure what county that is immediately from what I'm seeing. 18706 is the zip code.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from my colleagues on R160? In a hurry. Anybody? Comments from the public? Mr. Heppentrager, name and address.
Ken Heppentrager, 214 North St. Cloud. Just curious, what's one cost? Would it be like cost effective? We bought one sooner or later since this is something that goes on for often here.
Brand new machine would be about $800,000. The stackers would be probably about another $100,000. So we'd have about $1 million outlay. The machines get used very hard. So the fact of the upkeep and everything on it, and the fact that it's a specialty piece of equipment, we would end up spending way too much money on it over the years. So it is less expensive.
Because I know, I've been mining for 20 years, and I know exactly what this is. And I know a town in Penn, Maryland, actually like them, but actually loaned their services to other towns and ended up paying, this was a much smaller place than us, but they got the surrounding communities to also buy from them, and just wondering.
Thank you, sir. Good question. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Town, call a voice vote.
Okay, Ms. Apple.
Yes.
Ms. Grady.
Yes.
Jennings.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
McGuire. Yes. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Messenger. Mr. Hartzell, R161.
R161 is an authorization for engagement of professional services with Mo Cogby. Is that how you pronounce that? Altitude Car Center, an estimated amount of $1,500 for services to purchase used vehicles and
Thank you. Mr. Hartzell, go ahead.
I will say that even though the dollar amount was the size that it is, as you know, and I'm sure Mr. Messenger can talk about in far greater detail, that occasionally we go through the auction process and try to get vehicles for city use at a very reasonable cost that last well. And I believe we've used Mr. Pagney before, and actually our purchasing team went out and got 2 quotes, even though it was a very, very small dollar amount for the fees, just so we could figure out if there were other entities that would want to serve in that auction role with the fees, and it turned out that Mr. Pagney was still the best choice.
Okay, sounds good. Any comments from my colleagues? Comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Hamlin, call a voice vote, please.
Ms. Grady.
Yes.
Jennings.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
McGuire. Yes. Moda.
Yes.
O'Connell.
Yes.
Ms. Apple.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hartzell. You did a fine job for placing this role. Thank you, Mr. Messenger. This meeting is adjourned. We'll move right into the Public Works Committee meeting. I will turn the meeting over to Mr. McLean, as the chair. Dr. McGuire and myself are in the Public Works Committee. Mr. McLean, it's all yours.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, would you please read the R-154 for us, please?
Yeah, getting there. R-54 recommends R-154 recommends the administration post the following signage at 7th Street, Galatiete, in recognition and appreciation of the contributions, perspectives, and value Latinos and Spanish-speaking people add to our city.
Any comments from the committee?
I'd like to hear from Mr. Messenger. As far as, I believe you had a meeting scheduled with PennDOT today concerning the signage. Did that take place?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
So we met with traffic PennDOT reps today, and we discussed the use of the signage at the intersections.
We need a little more quiet in council chambers. It's very difficult to hear. We need some quiet, but this is a very interesting and informative topic, and go ahead.
Okay, so we discussed, first of all, the MUTCD, that's the Manual Uniform Traffic Code Division. That's the rulings that handle any signage whatsoever, whether it's at an intersection, whether it's just a stop sign, or whether it's a one-way sign. The MUTCD at this point in time does not cover any language that this would be something that would be allowed per se on a permit for a signalized intersection. However, if we were to, speaking with PennDOT, they would allow the actual pulled street name signs where we would actually have the name of the street in English per se, if it's 7th Street, and then be able to have, in this instance, Calle Siete, underneath that in a different color. The MUTCD does say that we can use different colors for that. They prefer it to be white or brown or blue. Now, having the white would have to have black lettering. That would be something I would not recommend. All our road closed signs or one-way signs, any signs of that nature there are black and white. I would not want to have something where somebody would mistake that for that. However, they do also recommend either blue or brown, and then with white lettering. So I would imagine from what we've spoken about, it would actually be a larger sign up on the top, again with 7th Street on the top, and then having it with the verbiage underneath it, and then whatever cross streets. So if it's at 7th and Tillman, it would have the 2 at top, and then going the opposite way, it would show also Tillman. I would recommend, if that does take place, and that is something that you would say that you're going to pass on with the resolution, I would recommend that there would be 2 signs at the intersection, that they would be crisscross. So if one was at the northwest corner, the other one would be at the southeast corner. But speaking with PennDOT, they had said that would be fine, and they have no issue with that.
It might be too early to ask, but do you have an approximation of the cost?
Estimating it would probably be around $200 per current corner. So if we had 2 of them at the intersection, it'd be $400 and or a little bit less, but I'd feel safe saying 400. I actually do have a picture of the signs that they actually have in Philadelphia. So that way everybody can take a look at it. It would be something similar to that.
This looks like Chinatown.
It is.
In Philadelphia.
Yes, know it well.
Go ahead, sir.
So as far as what PennDOT would allow, and I feel that it would also be something that would be safe enough to be able to do at the intersection, that would be our alternative to actually having something hanging off the mast arms, which working with them, that is something that we would not be able to have under the permit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Messenger. Mr. McLean, I'll defer my questions later.
Mr. McGuire, any questions? All right, I guess we'll open it to the public.
Mr. Greedy has a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Greedy.
Thank you, Mr. President and Mr. Chairman. Obviously, this is a resolution that I've been trying to put together. Part of the resolution is co-sponsored by various council members, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Those of you who co-sponsor it. We And I also want to thank you, Mr. Messenger, for your investigation and survey in regards to, in your department, in regards to finding out if PennDOT, if it is acceptable to do what we want to do, and appreciate your comments tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I make a brief comment. Obviously, we all live in America. America has, has been built in the back of immigrants. And obviously, English is the language of America. I respect that. I came here when I was 15 years old and tried to learn the language as much as I could so I could be successful. And we all understand that. It is a diverse community that we have in Allentown. We've been blessed with that. And one of the reasons, just like Mr. Messenger indicated, that in Chinatown, they have signs in Chinese, and they also have the sign in English. I think it's a good idea to do. I've been asked by many people to establish something like that in our city. 7th Street has been the street of where most Hispanics, not exclusively, but most Hispanics have come to set up their businesses. It started with 7th Street, it continues with 7th Street, it is growing on 7th Street. Over 67% of the businesses in the city in 7th Street are owned by Hispanics. Most of the people who live in the city, in that area, are Hispanics. And lucky for us, we have been having other ethnic groups that have been coming to the city and also settling on 7th Street. So it's attracting people, which is really, really good. And we are obviously having a melting pot, if we may call it, on 7th Street. The population of the city of Allentown is approximately 120,000 people. Of those 120,000 people, close to about 48 to 50% are Hispanic or Hispanic descent, and people who speak Spanish. And obviously, Hispanics are not the only one exclusively speaking Spanish. Many people around the country are looking to speak Spanish and also encourage their children to get into immersion programs where they can learn how to speak Spanish. Spanish is the second largest language in the world. English is a language of business in the world, obviously. And I would say that I would encourage anybody in this country who comes to this country to learn English and learn it as fast as you can. It is necessary. We live in the best country in the world. We are very blessed. And many people don't understand how blessed we are to live in this country. And because of that, I think we should celebrate our cultures. One of the things that has happened is that many of us have thought that having, just like Chinatown does, just in many larger cities, just like people do in other cities, including the name in Spanish below 7th Street. We're not proposing to change the name. We're just basically proposing to include, to add 7th Street in Spanish, Calle 7. They have that in Miami. It attracts a large number of people to the area, especially when they have a festival every year. We want to do the same. They do the same thing in other cities, New York, California. I just, for the sake of it, I googled Spanish cities or Spanish street names in Google, and I found thousands of them throughout the country. You can do it yourself, especially in the West Coast in California. We've been very blessed to have a large number of Hispanic coming to the city, working hard. And I know some people don't agree. I know some people would think that Hispanic come over here and all they do is bring crimes and bring trash, and they call us all kinds of names. But many of us, the majority of us, a very large percent of us, just like the German came here at one point, just like Leningrad Pike, just like the Pilgrims came over here in the Mayflower and established themselves here. The Germans came over here, established themselves here. It was a little different for the other time because we didn't have the technology that we have today. The Irish came over here, they also were ostracized, and they have to work hard, and they have to battle, and they have to make sure that they learn the language, and it was a little easier for them because they already spoke a little bit of English back then. But, and then the Italian came over, and when the Italian came over, they also went through what we're doing here. This cottage? No, we don't have to abide by the 3 minutes rule. Anyway, this cottage came over, the Italian came over, and they also have to deal with the issue that most foreigners deal with. And now the next wave has been the Hispanics to this area. And we just want to be able to have a little piece of America that we can say, identify closer with and say, hey, we're here, we're contributing to the economy, we're working hard, you know, families sometimes have to go out of the city, out of the state to work and come back because we love this city. And because we want to live here among everybody. And because of that, I think it behooves us, you just think most people work on that we can put the name in Spanish and to encourage other non-Spanish people who speak in Spanish or try to learn Spanish to say, hey, look, we're part of this community. Part of it also is to encourage Hispanics and those people who actually, and I'm not going to say that they don't happen, some people do throw trash in the city, on the street, throughout the city, not only on 7th Street, throughout the city. We're working on that. We actually collect trash here twice a week. And one of the things I said to Pete Lunes the other day, last night when we were talking, was that I like to volunteer we can go to 7th Street. I was talking to somebody else today in the Spanish community, and I said to her, you know, one of the things I foresee is that we can have a nice corridor, just like people say when they go to an Italian, Little Italy, an Italian neighborhood, Little Italy, or they go to the Chinatown and they see that there's a diverse, and not exclusively Chinese are there, or not exclusively Italians are there. Just like here, we have a wonderful group of not only Hispanic, but we have Ethiopian restaurants, we have Chinese restaurants, we have Syrians, and many other merchants in the area. So, saying that, I know that this is not a most lovely topic to talk about, but somebody has to take a stand. We have to start somewhere. And it's easy for me to say, hey, just let's not do anything. You know, let's wait until we have a beautiful utopia here. And just let's wait and not do anything and wait until Hispanic wait another 100 years, and then we can probably do something. But I think it's time for us. We are the majority of the community in the city, like it or not, but that's the fact. Okay? And we also contribute largely to the city. And I think that those who feel that we should wait, or that we should not do anything, or we should just leave it like that, or that we should put every name on the street, every language, Greek or Italian or whatever it may be, are confused. Because quite frankly, they're not the majority. We are the majority. And that's a fact. That's a fact.
Come on. Look. Mr. McLean, you chastise him.
Yeah, you'll have your chance to speak.
There's no women in hollering, but we're just gonna clear it. We're gonna have a civil discussion. Let's move forward civilly. People in the back row.
Thank you, Mr. President. And you know, and saying that, if you remember those who kind of booed here, I would say, you know, I say that we're very happy to be here, and we want to mingle, and we want to interact, and we want to learn, we want to integrate, we want to assimilate to the culture. I certainly have done it, okay? And I go over to Ringer's Roots, Mr. Ringer, and spend some time over there, spend money, and have a dinner with you. And I do it because I want to enjoy your food. And you've done very well in your restaurant, Mr. Ringer. And you also have received some support from the city. And I appreciate that. And I think we all should appreciate the culture, the different cultures that we have in the city. And saying that, let me just finish by saying that after we spoke last night with Mr. Lunes, who is the manager of 7th Street area, he pointed out that we should actually have spoken to, there's a board there, not sure how many members, but there's a board, and I called the president today for the board, and she feels that we should wait. The committee that met with him, it was actually Mr. McGowan, Dr. McGowan, Ms. Mota, Councilwoman Mota, and Councilwoman Afat, and I met with Mr. Lunes and his supervisor, Mr. Dan Basket. And we decided that we will table this issue for tonight and sit with our board and perhaps talk to some people who probably may have the wrong idea of what we're trying to do, and try to clarify it, and see where the community is, and then come back within a month. I think we say about 4 weeks. Yeah, come back within a month and see how we are. I certainly would love to see this. I would love to hear your comments. Please be civil. I'm not here chastising anybody. I expect the same respect I'm giving you to give to us. Don't take it personally, please. It's not about you individually. It's not about me. It's about the community. And we can live here and coexist in a harmonious way if we try. Thank you very much, Thank you very much, Mr. Councilman McLean, for letting me speak on this. And that's my comment. I'm sure that some of the other council members may have a comment.
Thank you. Next time we will start the timer though.
I will be short. I'm a sponsor of this, and we did have a meeting. I just want to clarify something from my perspective of all of this and why I'm sponsoring it. This has nothing to do with language. It has nothing to do, it doesn't have even to do with 7th Street as much as it has to do with Allentown. Allentown is something we constantly talk about. We're progressing, we're forward, we're very diverse. And I feel, as Mr. Garidi feels, that a small gesture, this is a gesture, and it's very nice. It's just a gesture. It's nothing to do with language or people speaking English or Spanish. It has to do with a gesture for people in Allentown to say thank you for 50% of the population. We have a lot of street names here. We're not changing any names. We're not changing anything. I believe that the community is large, and the reason we picked 7th Street is because there's a large population for a long time that's done business there. And I just wanted to reiterate that this has to do with Allentown, not 7th Street, it's with Spanish people, for the Latinos that are 50% of the community. And it's just a gesture. It's nothing more than that. It's nothing more than thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm also, I want to see truly this happen because, like I mentioned before, diversity is what makes Allentown great. I believe that we live in the city, which is great. You know, we also want to make it a lot greater, a lot better. And I believe that having diversity in 7th Street is what makes us, great. I love the food, I like the atmosphere, but the reality is the majority, like Mr. Garidi said, they're Latinos. You know, we have tons of Latino restaurants. And like I spoke to Mr. Luna last night, I think that the signs will be something good. And if there's some issue regarding it, I think that we can make, let's say, do a survey of different ethnicity and put a flag next to it. You know, I think that would be something good too. I value this community, and like I was saying before, I think that it's just about time. We don't have really nothing in the city that has a Spanish name. We know that we can talk about Roberto Clemente, but the reality is that was done by the board, like you mentioned before. But it would be nice, to have something that the community can also call their own. It will say, you know what, we're happy, we're happy that you guys are here, you're part of the community, you are integrated, and also they're working really hard. So I believe that this would be a great gesture, and I just hope that this happens, Thank you.
Mr. McGuire.
As was said, the 4 persons on the council here, you want to raise your hand so everybody sees who we are? We were at this meeting last night. We went because we got together, regardless of how people felt about the specific item. What really turned out was a significant part of the community on 7th Street had a different view of what Calle Siete might mean. And they were very articulate and rational about their presentation. And speaking for myself, but I think the experience of others was, this was a dimension we had not been made aware of, for no fault on our part, as it were. Let me just ask, how many of you are here tonight specifically about Calle Siete and 7th Street? Put up your hands, please. Okay. You saw all these things, they're even more than 50%. I almost said 62.35%.
Amazing what people bring out, what people come out to meetings for. Roughly half the crowd raised their
There
hand.
emerged a number of very creative and positive comments. If this were to go through exactly as it is now, a group of people on 7th Street will be upset, perturbed. And if we don't do it, a group will be upset and perturbed. For that reason, and those of us who were there together, if I misspeak here, please correct me, we had the idea that we needed to do, the great plural, that means city council plus the people on 7th Street, whether you favor the right or the left on the matter, whatever you want to call it, there needs to be some more work done. And for that reason, we, those of us who were there last night, Mr. Chairman, feel that this topic should be tabled, means no action at this time, for 4 weeks, that's in the next month, so that the people who have strong views on this from the 7th Street community can get together with some of the council members and work this thing through in a way that will be respectful but representative. And with that comment, I'd like to suggest, Mr. Chairman, and I believe, I don't know whether it should be to our committee chairman or to council president, I believe in respect for all those who came tonight, that at this time we allow some number, 15 minutes perhaps, of comments, and then council can take a vote on tabling it or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McGuire. Thank you, Mr. McLean. I'd like to get a solicitor's ruling. It seems like Mr. Greedy, one of the sponsors of the bill, along with Dr. McGuire, Ms. Appa, and we thank you for going to that meeting last night, Dr. McGuire, Mr. Greedy, Ms. Moden, and Ms. Appa. Thank you very much. I want to get a ruling from the solicitor. Obviously, the intent of this council tonight is to table this and gather more information. I preference my comments by saying, Mr. Greedy is a good man. I've known Mr. Greedy for many, many years. He's a decent man. He has the respect of the community, and his intent is very honorable. But I think, as been stated, this is a very important issue, we need to gather more information. My question to our solicitor is, being that the initiative is to table this until the future, do we go forth with public input?
With the question being the fact that it's being tabled, it's gonna come up again. So the question is, do we have input? There is some sort of action being taken here tonight. So I would recommend continuing with public input. As you've seen, the number of people here for this issue, let them speak so that even though it's gonna be coming in the future, they can come back, but it still should be something that should be addressed tonight, as there's going to be some action on this.
Fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Scott. Mr. Clay, turn it back to you.
Anybody else on the dais care to contribute anything?
May I just say something very quickly? Very quickly. Just so you know, as you come over and speak, I did have an opportunity to go out and talk to all the businesses on the city. on 7th Street, I'm sorry. And the majority of the businesses actually have signed petitions that they would like to see this. That's what I want to say. I have a petition here, okay?
I guess my question, and then I'm gonna throw this out, and it's rhetorical, is that where do we stop then? I'm not, you know, I've worked for 40 years, I worked with every segment of this community, but where do we stop if the Germans want to sign, if the Italians want to sign, if the Syrians want to sign? You know, I'm just throwing that out. This is something we need to think about, and hopefully I get invited as the chair of the committee to the next meeting.
I think
it would only be nice. So having said that, I guess we're gonna open it up to the public. Please, we're gonna keep you to 3 minutes and no longer. If somebody's already said what you wanted to say, you're certainly entitled to say it, but if you just received, we're already 18 minutes behind. Sir, your name, address?
I am Peter Lunis, a resident of 7th Street, 445 North 7th Street. I thank the council for opening up discussion of this. I thank the 4 council members I met with last night. As a resident of 7th Street since 2003, I have worked tirelessly to see this community come back. We've gone from a 70% vacancy rate to almost 100% occupied. This is a divisive issue. We have received countless calls. They're here. These are the people that have called to say, we don't want this. 7th Street rebranding it with this is an issue. You don't just rebrand without coming out to the community and asking them what they want. We had polled the Hispanic community 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Do you want us to have something, rebranding of the street, name it something different, add a Hispanic thing? Resoundingly no. The petition that was done, basically, I've had calls from my non-Hispanic merchants who said they were yelled at. They were saying, their comment was, well, if this was a Korean initiative, you would sign it. It is a divisive issue. It's not being handled correctly. I respectfully ask that we stop this, and we come up with a solution that does not rebrand an entire shopping district. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I can give my name?
Yes, sir.
Don Ringer, 1801 River Street, hometown. All due respect to all Hispanics, and Mr. Guidry, this is not Chinatown at all. And 7th Street is not an utopia. But I just want to know what Roger said here too. Can I name my street corner after all the German people, the Italian people, the Polish people, the Hungarian people, the Jews, everybody else that really built this town? They're not asking for streets to be named after them. No, we aren't. We are not asking for that. You're the only one that's asking for it, Julio.
The streets already are named after all those people.
Where?
Most of the streets are named after German, after Italian, after the founding fathers. And that's
No, they're
okay.
not, Julio.
I embrace that.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Ringer.
Good evening. I'm John Rosario, 611 North 7th Street. I own DNR Enterprises, right on 7th. I have been in Allentown for over 20 years, right on 7th Street. My problem with this is that we have a lot of children, disadvantaged children as we call them, lacking education in Center City, on 7th Street. They don't have the tools to get ahead in life. That is a problem. We have a revolving door of people renting apartments on 7th Street and all around the alleys. No home ownership. So why don't we talk about creating a low-income home ownership for people who they can invest in the community? They can be invested in the community. They can come and make sure the streets are clean. That's what we need to do. I think our leadership has this wrong. They have their priorities in the wrong place. This is not the way they should go. I'm Hispanic, I could care less for Spanish signs. That's not what this is about. Thank you. Thank you.
If we don't keep civility, we're just gonna empty it and end this, okay? We don't applaud in council chambers and we don't yell. Thank you, Mr. Rosario, for your comment. Sir, I'm Andy.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Capilla. I live at 435 North 8th Street. I've also been a member of the 7th Street Development Committee for the past 9 years. And I just wanted to make one comment, and I think it's very important that we put it out there, this issue, people are calling it divisive. Very similar, in fact, exactly the same issue was put before the council almost 8 years ago. And the 7th Street community didn't want it then, they don't really want it now. But I think the most important point to remember here, that we're not talking about that the Hispanic people want it and everybody else doesn't. We're talking about the 7th Street community, the 7th Street merchants, Hispanic, and every other background. They don't really want this. I mean, you're talking about making a gesture, a lovely gesture. If you're gonna be spending $400 a corner on a gesture, I think you need to have a better idea from the people on that street, in that community, because nobody has asked them. And I think you should. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Pearson, 942 East Tillman Street. We of the East Side community know a little thing about branding, getting things that most of us don't want. We also know a little thing about tourism, which means that people from afar are more egghead for making decisions for everybody else because you think you're smarter than them. And that's why sometimes I feel bad about the name of Allentown, because we have named our city after Judge Allen, who was the biggest Tory during the American Revolution.
My name is Carlos Salas. I live in 424 North Street. I come to support Calle 7 in Allentown. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Dorcas de Rivera, 617 North 7th. I lived there for 40 years. And it's a nice thing, what you want to do, but before that, we have to focus on trash, more police, and cleaning the streets. I own and I do business there, and if every half an hour I come out at my door, I have trash in front of my place. And the last thing that I wanted to do is to name 7th Street in Spanish, even though it's my own language. I feel like we all go backwards, not forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Bill Green. I am a resident of Allentown. I live at 214 North 8th Street, and I'd like to register my displeasure with this resolution. I believe that it is divisive and alienating, regardless of anyone's background. And I'd like to see much more priority in terms of, as other speakers have said, cleaning up trash. I've got a trash can that's missing next to my house in front of the parking lot. And there's garbage all over the street from that. And in terms of gestures, which I don't have a problem with a gesture for a community that has contributed enormously to Allentown. But my thought is something else could be in terms of opening up a green space. Something like that, something where everyone in Allentown can feel like we're moving forward. And I think that should be the basis of any decision that the council should make. And that is, does this decision move Allentown forward for everyone? And I think that this resolution fails that test. So that's my feeling. Thank you.
What was your address, sir?
214 North 8th Street, 2 blocks from the arena.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am.
Bridget Hartz. I live on 47 North 7th Street, right next to the community center. As you can tell by my way I speak, English is my second language. I happen to be of German descent. I've lived in Allentown, I've been in the United States for 42 years, and I've lived on 7th Street almost all my life. Before that, my late husband's family, the Parks family, lived on 7th Street, ran a business on 7th Street since 1945. I'm a committed homeowner in my house on 7th Street. Having said that, I love my Spanish neighbors, my Hispanic neighbors. I go shopping at the Spanish stores. I'm very, very positive of my Spanish neighbors. However, I do not see the sense in renaming or adding a sign that says Calle Siete, because I give my Spanish neighbors, or my Hispanic neighbors, enough credit that they know what 7th Street is, that it is 7th Street and that it doesn't need to have a Spanish name. I love the idea of honoring the Hispanic population with something very special, just like the gentleman said before me, maybe a park area. But starting to put up street signs, it does make no sense to me. I have a commitment to 7th Street. I would like to say my address with pride. It's a hard sell these days. It's a hard sell, I can tell you that. But I'm committed to my home, I'm committed to my street, and I really would like it to remain 7th Street. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Rebecca Torres, and I'm a resident and business owner at 432 North 7th Street for over 30 years. Although I appreciate the sponsor's good intentions to promote the Latino community, for all the reasons already stated, I am not in agreement with the proposed resolution to add Calle Siete to the existing street signs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and just for full disclosure, I've known Rebecca for many years, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Burrows, and I'm the Executive Director of the Neighborhood Center at 435 North 7th Street. And I am not in support of this. I think it is good to keep our heritage behind us. And I believe it should stay at 7th Street. And I grew up here in Allentown, and I think it's great that we have 7th Street. And as someone else had said, when does it stop? You know, what number do we stop at, or whatever the culture is, or whatever. So I think it should stay at 7th Street.
Thank you very much, Becky.
I'm Kathy Fry. I'm a teacher at the Neighborhood Center, 435 North 7th Street. I'm not in support of this either. Reason being, I've been a teacher in both the Allentown School District and now at the Neighborhood Center for a long time. We teach the kids to get along no matter what our culture is. And it has nothing to do, I mean, we have a lot of different ethnicities in the district. And the one thing about the Neighborhood Center is we have a great rapport with the children and with the parents and their families. And to see them on 7th Street, they don't care about the street signs and what it says. It's about getting along. It's about seeing the community, the neighborhood. Peter and the 7th Street group has done a fantastic job. The kids notice the difference. They love our new look, the past year, the change that the Neighborhood Center has taken on. And that's thanks to Peter and the 7th Street group. And they see that change. They have seen the work that has gone into our different look. And that's thanks to them. And they notice all the changes on their way from school to us. The parents need to see everything that everyone has said. They want to see, you know, the change. They want to see the trash being picked up. They don't know about the new arena that has gone up. They don't know about all these changes in Hamilton Street. They need to know what's going on in the little neighborhood of 7th Street or 6th Street or 5th Street or wherever they live. When we were able to get tickets for them for a hockey game, they couldn't hug us more and said, thank you, we didn't know this was what was going on down there. So all this stuff that's changing, or a street sign, they don't know, they don't care about that. They know what's going on right there on their neighborhood. A street sign isn't gonna mean anything to them. No disrespect to, you know, if it says Calle Siete or 7th Street, that's not important in their everyday life. It's keeping their kids safe and getting them to school, or getting them to where they need to be. So, I mean, that's what's important. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Sir?
Saludos, presidente y demás miembros de la sala.
May I translate? You just say,
Not much choice.
not for you. It's important to learn to have a couple of languages, but anyway.
Por segunda
You
ocasión,
say,
yo vengo-
let me translate. You just say, good evening, members of council and those in the room. Go ahead.
Mi nombre es Juan Santos.
My name is Juan Santos.
Por segunda ocasión vengo a, más que poner la necesidad de que se le cambie, o no que se le cambie, sino que se le agregue el nombre de calle 7 a la actual 7 Street.
For the second time, I'll come before you to ask and request that not to change the name, but to add a name of Calle 7 on
Yo
7th Street.
quiero recalcar sobre los beneficios que va a obtener él.
I'd like to enhance the benefits that this will have.
Nadie quita de que la calle 7 o
Nobody takes away that 7th
la
Street
7 Street es un espacio económico, si se quiere, comercial,
It's
donde
a
se han
commercial-
desarrollado los negocios latinos.
It's a commercial space where Latin and Hispanic businesses have grown.
Y justamente por esa razón es que en esa calle se hace necesario que la autoridad ordene el que se le coloque el nombre de calle 7.
And because of that, in that street, we request that the authority of the city ask or pass a law that
Es lo mismo que
recognize
sucede.
7th Street on Spanish.
Es lo mismo que sucede en Miami. En
It's
Miami
the same
existe la
in
calle
Mi-
8,
In Miami they have Calle 8, which is A Street.
pero no fue porque a nadie se le antojó colocarle la calle 8.
But it wasn't because anybody wished to put the name of Calle 8.
Sino porque había toda una expresión cultural cubana que se manifestaba en ese espacio geográfico y decidieron entonces bautizarlo con la calle 8.
But because there was a Cuban community that lived in and worked in that space and wanted to baptize the street at Calle 8.
La San Nicolás en New York,
St. Nicholas, New York,
a nadie se le antojó pura y simplemente colocarle debajo Juan Pablo Duarte.
nobody had wished to publish the name of it on the San Nicolas, put the name Juan Pablo Duarte.
Sino que el 90% de los negocios que hay en la San Nicolás son de dominicanos y han contribuido bastante al desarrollo económico de toda esa parte.
But that 90% of the businesses on San Nicolas Street are of Dominican descent, and they felt that they should put it.
Nadie se opuso a que se le colocara Juan Pablo Duarte.
Nobody opposed that the name Juan Pablo Duarte was installed underneath San Nicolas Street.
Y así sucede en todas partes.
And that's what happened in a lot of other places.
Si nosotros miramos, por ejemplo, aquí en Alentado, en la calle 7,
If we look here in Allentown,
¿quién no va a decir que los dos supermercados más grandes que hay son latinos?
who wouldn't say that the two largest supermarkets on 7th Street are Latin?
Porque el 90% de los restaurantes que hay son latinos.
That 90% of the restaurants
We'll
are
have
Latin.
to wrap it up in 3 minutes.
Tiene que terminar porque ya está vencido.
Entonces, estamos hablando de un espacio geográfico donde se manifiesta la cultura latina.
So
Lo
we're
que
talking
queremos
about a
es,
geographical space where the Latin culture manifests.
lo que queremos es finalmente que eso sea regularizado y llevado de las manos justamente por ustedes, que son la autoridad.
So what we like to do, what we like to see is that that be regulated or
Muchas gracias.
that the authority takes it and pass it, on the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Gracias.
You're next, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Elsa Vasquez. I reside in 620 North 6th Street in Allentown. And I have one of my business off 7th Street. And I have been living in this community since 1978. This is home for me. My children grow up here, and I have grown up here too as well. I support and I endorse the project of Calle 7. It's not going to take away the identity of anybody, and if anything, is gonna be a legacy to our children, speaking of children, where it's like a symbol, where they can feel that they belong to, that they are part of. And so it's saddening to hear people that they feel, that they're offended over this. And this is not to offend anybody, but anything to enrich our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Sure.
Julian Grady, I reside at 3611 Astor Street. I just want to say, I grew up in Allentown all my life. I've been living here because of my father and my parents. And I feel like Allentown is changing a lot, and all the change that we are involving in also our community. Also, recently graduating from college, every major requires another language in order to fulfill the requirements. And it seems like the majority of everyone in college or anyone else, all my friends, is Spanish. They're including Spanish as their minor or just to learn, because they see that not only in Allentown but around the country, Spanish is evolving and becoming more of maybe a primary language or second language for everyone, not just Hispanics, but thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Jackson, 2215 West Gordon Street. I don't live on 7th Street, but I've spent many years working in Center City doing community service type stuff. And a lot of work and time has gone in from folks like Peter Lewis to make 7th Street marketable. If we're gonna say that 7th Street is the entryway into the new Allentown, then we don't want to restrict it. We want it to be inclusive, not exclusive. By renaming the street, we give the impression that this is exclusively Hispanic. With all due respect to, Little Havana, Chinatown, I've been to Chinatown many times. At times, every business there is either Chinese owned or they're selling products that relate to China somehow. That's not what 7th Street is. We want to widen the appeal of 7th Street. So that the folks coming into 7th Street to go to the arena, to go to the museum, to go to the art place, that they will feel like it's a place where they can stop and eat. There's diversity here. This is not narrowed down and restricted to one group of people. We are a diverse town, and we should leave our sign in English only so that it represents that diversity. That's our commonality here in America. We all come from different places and different cultures, but our commonality is the English language. We all operate in that language to greater or lesser degrees. So I don't agree with changing the sign, and I have a really big problem with the fact that the folks who do live there and work there and struggle there and volunteer their time were not consulted about what should be done. I agree we should recognize and appreciate the contributions, but there are a lot of ways to do that. The city can line its money up with Upside Allentown and do something to multiply its funds by getting with some of the neighborhood partnerships that are already going on and put your money in that direction. If you want to recognize something, don't rebrand the street. Take something like Stevens Park and rename it. It's in the center of the community that you're trying to honor. So I think I welcome the opportunity when you come and meet with us. Those of us that sit on the board for CAVCA or work in that area, that you come and meet with us and have a conversation with us. And let's talk about it, and I agree, I think something should be done, but I don't think this is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think we've heard from both sides pretty much. If there's anybody that has anything they want to offer, I mean, we're not going to hold you back, but if we want, we will certainly move on if we have nobody else.
One more.
My name is Osvaldo Pinheiro, Lieutenant Colonel retired in the Army. I grew up in Allentown. I came here not knowing a single word of English. I struggled, I learned, I assimilated. I ate every kind of food, didn't matter who made it. I played with all kids, color, language, heritage meant nothing. Friendship, community, that's what mattered to me. 2 weeks ago, I made a decision to move back to my hometown. I've seen a lot of changes in the visits that I've come. I've seen good changes, and I've seen bad changes. There are good people, and there are bad people of all races, all colors, all thoughts, all cultures. And the issue is that it goes deeper than this, evidently, from what I've heard, from both sides. It's more than just a adding and a recognizing. There are some deep issues here of people not feeling part of the community or feeling that their community is being overturned. Diversity is great, but diversity divides. Diversity as an addition to the community. Hispanic American, African American, Dominican American, Irish American, German, Jewish Americans. We're forgetting that we are Americans, regardless of language, culture, history, where you live, what you eat. Julio invited me here because we wanted to catch up. He's my old college roommate. I haven't seen him since we graduated in 1984-85. I came to catch up, and this is what I'm coming to. And I'm gonna live here, but it saddens me that we can't get beyond, still, beyond all of this. In the military, there is no such thing. Yeah, we recognize diversity, but we're a community of brotherhood. And that's what I want my town to be. And go back to a community of brotherhood. So it's a good thing that we're tabling, because there are issues that need to be resolved. And they're much deeper than what's being discussed here. So we need to know each other, understand each other better. We're not here to hate, although there'll always be haters. But we gotta look beyond that. This is my town. I grew up here. I love this town. I decided to not go to Myrtle Beach in a condo. Back to my hometown. This is the last thing I expected.
Probably a good move with the hurricane.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I just hope we can resolve this.
Thank you very much, and I think one of the positives that have come out of tonight is that this was not a division along ethnic or racial lines here. We have people on both sides of the fence here, so it's not, ma'am.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for accepting comment. I'm Carrie Holmes, and I live on 1147 East Mark Street. And I do want to register a statement of support for the additional naming. I think that all of the sentiments certainly are valid, and I do believe that in addition to being a gesture of appreciation and acknowledgement to the Latino culture, community, and contributions here, I think we do recognize as a community that the renaming of the street, both logistically and culturally, it means something to us, and we're here to express whatever we feel about it, because it is representative of our culture. We do have our streets, Allen, Church Street, for historical markers. As an African American and as a woman of African American descent and Mexican heritage, it's very interesting to me that I can read in the paper when much of the same conversation and the same scripts, were played. when the African American community wanted to change the name of change the name of Lawrence Street to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And I think to whatever extent we can appreciate the camaraderie and conversation, even when it wasn't, pleasant, that you've had with those who may disagree with this addition. There are some places here in Allentown that sadly, there has been no discussion. Cultures were moved out, other cultures came in. Some were invited, some weren't. Somebody thought that they owned a street or thought that another culture belonged in that place. There are some things that have happened by government takeover, if you will, that have never seen the light of a community conversation. So that council is willing to have this conversation, that you're willing to do it in an open way. I do want to thank you for that, because that is not always the case, and that is a sad thing that's happened in the city and in this very vicinity that you're looking at. But I will say that to whatever extent we can understand that our street names, our building names, our park names, they do represent us and who we are historically, culturally. And we may possibly need to ask our council members to encourage us throughout the community to have this conversation and what it represents in a deeper way, because our culture and our community will not disappear if we work together as a community to preserve who we are and who we are becoming. So I want to thank you for each and every one of you and your contribution to that. And I want to invite the community into a deeper conversation about who we are and who we want to be together as a diverse community. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else at the podium, do I have a motion from a committee member?
Yes, Committee Member O'Connell, I would like to make a motion that this is tabled.
Do I have a second?
I will second it, provided it's tabled for 4 weeks and we have a specific date to meet it again.
I was gonna say, we can have a vote without the specific date. Michael certainly put it on the agenda.
I'll go back to the solicitor, Mr. Normally we make a favorably recommendation, favorably, unfavorably, without a recommendation or table. Dr. McGuire has put an addendum to it, table it if we talk about this in the next 4 weeks.
Well, we don't even need an opinion, because
we don't need it.
I can second your.
I know where you're going. I got you. I know exactly where you're going. I want a ruling from the solicitor. An addendum to a table is not traditional.
It's not traditional in the way that, as you described, it's normally just tabled. The reason it's not being traditional is it's not an actual vote. You're more along the lines of just suspending the vote, so it's not something you're gonna add to and put conditions on. That would be a decision with regards to the committee and setting the agenda.
Thank you. I made a recommendation, we table it. Dr. McGuire, go ahead.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's the end of this meeting. Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned?
I think we'll have 5 minutes before we start the
Yeah, I mean, obviously people come out for this issue and you don't have to stay for the entire meeting, but you're more than welcome to. We'll reconvene at 7:55. Thank you for coming out and have a good evening.